Could a single vinyl record shake the global music industry, fracture the official narrative of a giant agency, and spark speculation about unwritten privileges within one of the greatest groups in history? Or are we witnessing something far more complex, more political, and more orchestrated than just a successful sale? That question reverberated like an unseen bass thump in the digital public sphere when Jungkook's Orchid vinyl sold out within minutes, leaving behind traces of awe, suspicion, and whispers that are now beginning to be picked up by US media. Since the morning pre-orders opened, the atmosphere already felt different. On South Korea's Naver store, the phone screens of thousands of ARMY flickered, their fingers trembling above the checkout button, as if they were racing not only against fellow fans but against time itself. Jungkook's Orchid vinyl, the most expensive edition among the 9 variants of BTS's 5th album titled Erarang, surged from available to sold out almost instantly. The additional 30,000 won, roughly 350,000 Indonesian rupiah, which should have served as a psychological barrier, instead seemed to ignite collective desire. Yet behind that euphoria, a question began to swirl. Why did Jungkook's version, the most expensive one, disappear the fastest? U.S. media, which usually observes K-pop phenomena from a certain distance, has now begun to examine it with a sharper lens. Several entertainment industry analysts in America have suggested that the speed of the sellout is not merely about popularity, but could indicate distribution patterns, marketing strategies, or even internal preferences that HYBE has never disclosed to the public. There are market dynamics that are not entirely transparent, wrote one entertainment columnist, triggering a wave of discussion across international fan forums. The album Erarang itself is far from an ordinary release. Scheduled to launch on March 20, 2026, it is projected as BTS's major comeback after a long hiatus, with a concept that digs into the roots of Korean culture, both modern and traditional, global yet deeply local. In vinyl format, the album comes in 9 variants, 2 group versions, Modern Korea and Group Red, as well as 7 individual editions representing each member: RM with silver, Jin with pink, Suga with clear, J-Hope with cream, Jimin with burgundy, V with velvet red, and of course Jungkook with orchid, which has now become the center of attention. Each vinyl record is accompanied by an exclusive outer sleeve, inner sleeve, poster, and lyric paper, details designed not just as products but as emotional artifacts for fans. Yet behind this aesthetic emerges another, darker and more political narrative. Is Jungkook being indirectly positioned as the main face of BTS's new era? Is Orchid merely a color, or a symbol of a quiet coronation? On Weverse US, a similar scene unfolded. In less than 10 minutes, the Orchid vinyl vanished again from the digital catalog, becoming the first version to sell out compared to the others. At Target US, the situation was even more dramatic. Stock disappeared in under 5 minutes, briefly restocked, then sold out again, as if demand could never truly be satisfied. For some fans, this is undeniable proof that Jungkook is the sold-out king. For others, it raises suspicion. Why does this pattern keep repeating? Social media turned into a battlefield of narratives. Hashtags like #Jungkook, #SoldOutJungkook, and #BTS flooded timelines, filled with a mixture of admiration, conspiracy theories, and amateur analysis. Some ARMY celebrated this as proof of unwavering love. Others wondered whether invisible mechanisms were amplifying Jungkook's dominance, whether through algorithms, stock distribution, or media framing. In Indonesia, the same fever was felt. Thousands of ARMY hunted for pre-orders via Weverse Shop and international online stores, staying up late and competing with buyers from around the world. Yet behind that enthusiasm, some began to reflect. Are they buying the vinyl out of love, or because of FOMO fueled by the fast sellout narrative? Jungkook's achievement undeniably strengthens his position as one of BTS's most commercially influential members. However, US media has begun shifting focus from simply praising this success to questioning the structure behind it. Is HYBE truly neutral in marketing each member? Or is there a subtle golden privilege at play, shaping market perception before consumers even have time to think? As time moves toward the release date of Erarang, these questions grow louder. Will this album become a symbol of BTS's collective resurgence, or mark a new era where one member shines brighter than the rest? And most importantly, what is HYBE not telling the world about Jungkook's Orchid vinyl? For now, one thing is certain. The vinyl record has sold out, but the story behind it has only just begun. When the euphoria of the sales subsided and the timeline was no longer filled with screenshots of successful checkouts, another layer of this story began to emerge, quieter yet far more unsettling. US media did not merely look at the sold-out numbers, but scrutinized the structure behind those figures. How stock was allocated, how narratives were produced, and how public attention was directed, as if there were an invisible hand orchestrating the spotlight. A number of music industry analysts in the United States began comparing the sales pattern of Jungkook's Orchid vinyl with previous K-pop release market behaviors. They noted that, statistically, individual versions of BTS members' releases usually showed relatively balanced demand curves, with minor variations explainable by fan preferences. This time, however, that pattern appeared to fracture. On Naver Store, Weverse US, and Target US, Jungkook's version did not just lead. It dominated in an almost uniform way across regions, platforms, and demographics. Coincidence? Or a sign of something more structured? U.S. media began raising the possibility of a demand sculpting strategy, a marketing technique in which product availability is deliberately managed to create a more dramatic illusion of scarcity for certain items. In the context of the Orchid vinyl, several anonymous sources suggested that the initial stock allocation may not have been equal to those of other members' versions. If true, then the sellout was not merely a reflection of fan love, but the result of a market architecture designed from the outset. At the same time, HYBE remained silent, maintaining the official narrative that all versions were produced and distributed fairly. Yet this silence only strengthened speculation. In the world of K-pop, where transparency is often blurred by branding strategies, silence can mean many things. Is HYBE avoiding difficult questions, or is there truly nothing to explain? Meanwhile, the discussion around golden privilege began shifting from mere fandom jargon into a more serious discourse. Some US entertainment journalists linked it to the concept of market favoritism, a situation in which one member of a group is indirectly positioned as the main face for global commercial interests. Jungkook, with his universal image, strong vocal ability, and cross-cultural appeal, is seen as an ideal candidate for that role. But does that mean other members are being systematically overshadowed? On Weverse US, less than 10 minutes was enough to erase the Orchid vinyl from the digital catalog. For many international fans, this was proof that Jungkook possesses unmatched global appeal. Yet US media posed a different question. Is this purely organic demand, or the result of algorithms that push the visibility of certain products more aggressively than others? In the modern e-commerce ecosystem, algorithms can be the invisible kings that determine what consumers see, click, and buy. Target US added another layer of drama to this narrative. The Orchid vinyl sold out in under 5 minutes, then briefly reappeared in a short restock before disappearing again. This sold out again pattern sparked intense debate. Some saw it as evidence of extreme demand. Others suspected it was a marketing strategy designed to trigger urgency and FOMO, fear of missing out, further elevating the product's symbolic value. In online discussion spaces, especially Reddit and Threads, theories began to spread. Some argued that HYBE might be testing the market to see how far Jungkook could stand as an independent commercial draw, without fully relying on BTS's collective identity. If so, the Orchid vinyl could be an early experiment, not just merchandise. On the other hand, some warned of the dangers of this narrative. They worried that framing Jungkook as the golden child could create internal tension within the fandom, fracture ARMY solidarity, and reduce the sense of togetherness that has long been at the core of BTS. US media did not ignore this emotional dimension. They noted how every speculation about favoritism triggered defensive reactions, heated debates, and even conflict among fans. In Indonesia, similar discussions unfolded. Many ARMY who were initially focused only on the joy of securing pre-orders began engaging in more critical conversations. Were they unknowingly becoming part of a larger global marketing machine? Or was their love for Jungkook and BTS still pure, regardless of industry dynamics? Meanwhile, the album Erang drew closer to its release date on March 20, 2026. Its themes inspired by Korean cultural roots, Modern Korea and Group Red, suggested that BTS wanted to reaffirm their collective identity. Yet an irony began to surface. While the album's message seemed to emphasize togetherness, market reality highlighted one individual, BTS. Media closed their coverage with a lingering question. If the Orchid vinyl was only the beginning, what would happen in the next promotional phase? Would Jungkook continue to be the center of BTS's commercial gravity, or would balance be restored? Behind the glitter of sold-out status, behind trending hashtags, and behind claims of fan loyalty, one layer of the story remained incompletely revealed. HYBE may have sold all the vinyl, but that does not mean it has revealed all the truth, and as the world waits for the next chapter of this story, one question continues to pulse. Is Orchid merely a color, or a sign of an inevitable shift? As the dust of speculation began to settle, a larger picture slowly came into view, not as a definitive answer, but as a complex mosaic connecting fandom corporations, global media, and BTS's own artistic identity. US media, now delving even deeper into the Jungkook Orchid vinyl phenomenon, no longer spoke merely about the speed of the sellout, but began questioning what all of this meant for the future of K-pop as an industry and BTS as a cultural institution. Several entertainment business experts in the United States argued that the Orchid vinyl case is a perfect example of a paradigm shift in global music marketing. In the past, album sales, both digital and physical, were seen as a direct measure of popularity. Today, sales have become a theatrical stage designed to generate narratives, create sensation, and steer public perception. Within this framework, a sellout is not just the result of demand, but a carefully curated performance. Jungkook, with all his charisma, appears to stand right at the center of that performance. Media began comparing this situation to dynamics in the Western pop industry, where labels often push one figure as the main face for the sake of branding efficiency and market penetration. If a similar pattern is being applied within the BTS ecosystem, the question becomes sharper. Is HYBE quietly shifting BTS from a model of 7 equal stars to a model of a collective with a single center of gravity? On the other hand, fans have not been entirely passive in interpreting this situation. Many ARMY reject the golden privilege narrative as a media attempt to divide the fandom. They argue that Jungkook has always had an enormous and highly organized fanbase, so it is only natural that his products sell out faster. For them, the Orchid vinyl is not a symbol of industry favoritism, but evidence of organically coordinated collective love. Yet US media did not stop there. They highlighted how platform algorithms, Naver, Weverse, Target, could play a significant role in shaping sales outcomes. Products promoted more aggressively, displayed more prominently, or labeled as limited tend to attract more clicks and impulsive purchases. If the Orchid vinyl receives such treatment, then Jungkook's dominance is not just a story about fandom, but also about digital system design that may be biased. Meanwhile, the album Erang moved closer to its release date on March 20, 2026, carrying immense expectations. The themes of modern Korea and Group Red seem to signal BTS's desire to reaffirm their collective identity after a long hiatus. Yet the growing irony was that public discourse revolved around one named Jungkook, rather than the 7 members as a whole. Media also examined the psychological impact of this phenomenon on the other members. In a highly competitive industry, even within a very solid group, public perception can influence internal dynamics, solo opportunities, and future negotiating positions. Would RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, and V feel comfortable if the Golden Child narrative continued to strengthen? Or would they see it as a strategy that ultimately benefits the entire group? In Indonesia, this debate resonated with equal intensity. Many ARMY felt torn between pride in Jungkook's achievements and concern that this narrative could shift away from the spirit of togetherness that has long been the heart of BTS. Some fanbases even called for more focus on the album as a collective work, rather than on a single member. However, one thing could not be denied. The Orchid vinyl had become more than just a product. It had transformed into a symbol of loyalty, of fandom power, of potential imbalance, and of the narrative battle between agency, media, and fans. US media saw it as a case study of how the modern entertainment industry operates in the era of globalization and digital platforms. The HYBE so far, maintained its silence and formal stance. There was no official statement explaining stock allocation details, promotional strategies, or the reasoning behind the higher pricing of Jungkook's version. For some, this was a strategy to avoid controversy. For others, it only deepened suspicion that something was deliberately being withheld. Amid all of this, the hashtag BTS Unsettling continued to echo, reminding the world that behind the market drama, there was music, art, and a cultural story BTS wanted to tell. Regardless of sales dynamics, the album remained highly anticipated as a work that would mark a new chapter in their journey. Media concluded their analysis on a reflective note. Would the orchid vinyl phenomenon set a precedent for future BTS releases? If Jungkook continued to stand at the commercial forefront, would that strengthen or erode the group's collective identity? In the end, ARMY's loyalty proved unwavering. They bought, they supported, they debated, they analyzed, and they loved. Yet that love now confronted an increasingly complex industry reality, where every business decision could shift the direction of the narrative. As the clock ticked toward March 20, 2026, the world awaited not only the sound of music from Erarang, but also answers to the questions that had lingered since the orchid vinyl sold out. Was this merely market success, or the early sign of a new BTS era not yet fully understood? And beneath it all, one mystery persisted. What exactly had HYBE not told the world about the Jungkook orchid vinyl? And what did that silence mean for BTS's future? Amid the roar of debates, the chime of notifications, and the never-quite-fading clamor of hashtags, Jungkook's orchid vinyl now lives as something greater than itself. It is no longer merely a soft purple record, but a mirror reflecting the ambitions of the industry, the desires of fandom, and the complexity of BTS's identity on the global stage. US media noted that every restock, every sellout, and every analysis only adds a new layer to this mystery, as if the truth were intentionally left spinning like a needle over a vinyl that never stops. Meanwhile, HYBE continues to stand behind the curtain, maintaining a measured distance from the storm of speculation, allowing the market and the media to play their roles. Yet that silence grows heavier, like an unspoken promise. Will they one day lift the veil on the strategy behind Orchid, or will this story remain forever archived within the industry? On the other side, ARMY keeps moving, supporting, interpreting, questioning, and loving, proving that despite all the controversy, the bond between BTS and their fans remains unshaken. And as the hands of time continue to turn toward the release of Erarang, the world can only wait, wonder, and hold its breath. Will the next sound we hear be clarification, surprise, or merely another chime in an unfinished tale?